Are you feeling frustrated? You want to meet someone and it's not happening, and you really don't know what to do. It's even left you thinking that all the good ones are taken or there's no quality singles out there at all. I hear you, and I want to talk about that today. Now, before we get started, I don't think anyone should settle ever, because who we choose to have a relationship with literally has the biggest impact in our lives. And research has proven that it can change you to be a better person, or it can have the complete opposite effect. So in a great relationship, it will make you happier, healthier, someone to support you, to have your back, to laugh in the good times and to support you in the bad times. Yet if you're in a bad relationship, it can grind you down until you're barely visible. So who we choose to be in a relationship determines to some degree who we become. So it's important to do that right. But what I do find is people go, I'm not going to settle, but they end up settling for someone that ultimately makes them unhappy. And why does that happen? It usually comes down to what they're choosing on. I do see a lot of women get caught up in the shiny exterior, and underneath is not always a good guy. You know, they get, they get, what do you call it? Infatuated with the guy that comes across as confident, that has that good exterior, yet underneath is lacking what they really need. Now, the qualities you need in a relationship: you want someone that's emotionally intelligent, that's self-aware, that can be kind. But sometimes I see particularly women choose quite the opposite. So as much as they don't want to settle, they'll settle for someone that gives them excitement, that gives them, a little bit of what they want, but not really what they want. So it's important to be clear about what you want for both men and women. Now, maybe you've heard in the past that you need to write a list. I'm not so much a fan of the list. It's good to kind of write what you want, but I find a lot of people have too high expectations in their list. And the reality is that they're not going to find that. And I want to talk about that a little bit, about those high expectations. Because again, bear in mind, and this is where dating advice is really quite interesting. I don't think anyone should settle, but sometimes too high expectations will keep people single. A little bit of a pit to paint a picture. So imagine you really want the $1 million house, but you've only got 300,000. No matter how much you might want it, no matter how much you think you might deserve it, you don't have the ability to get the $1 million house. Now, as much as we all want to date someone, we've got to look at ourselves first. And I am not talking about twisting yourself out of shape like a pretzel to be what someone else wants, because that doesn't make anyone happy. You've got to be genuine, and you've really got to be, a list might be helpful. Write down your list and see if you match that list. If you match the requirements of your own list is a really good start. When I work with people, I will get them to, be really clear about how they want to feel in a relationship. Because you could think that you want the good looking guy, but maybe he's so obsessed with his career that he's got no time to spend with you, got no kindness or warmth. Women can often get distracted by that security factor rather than if it's a kind guy. I do have women go, can you find me a kind man? And I'll ask them, is that something they choose? When they reflect on it, they don't choose it. So I think it's really interesting to be clear about how you want to feel. But going back to the list, write a list and see whether you meet the requirements of your list. But before I get there, when I talk about expectations, you could expect that you want someone that looks like Brad Pitt, George Clooney, that earns a decent amount of money. He has no baggage. He has a boat. He has a huge group of friends. All of these requirements that he has to be over 6 foot. He has to be, he has to dress a certain way. He has to be. too many expectations, it's like everyone's aiming for that 1% of the population. Now, basic simple maths, and you don't even have to be good at maths to know this, is there's not enough of that 1% to go around. And the likelihood is that that 1% might not even make you happy. And do you have what they want? So all we can do is really look at ourselves, okay? And be what we want to attract. So for example, I have singles that say, I don't want someone who's overweight, but they're overweight. I don't want someone that's judgmental of me or of others, but they're judgmental of themselves and others. They want someone who's not flaky, yet they're flaky. They ghost relationships all the time. They don't take responsibility. You have to be, they're looking for someone to respect them, but they don't respect themselves. You have to be what's on your list. And sometimes it can be a bit of an interesting one. Say, you want someone that really cares about you and can give you what you need. Yet if you're always giving to other people, you need to learn how to receive. So sometimes you might need the opposite. If you're an overgiver, you need to learn how to receive if you're going to end up in a relationship where you can actually have your needs met. So let's go through the list of, some of the things of how you can be your list, because like attracts like, and being able to have good boundaries in place allows someone to respect you. But if you don't know where your boundaries are, you'll often get people that overstep that and you don't end up in a happy relationship. So I'll give you a couple of examples, and I'm going to refer to my notes so I get them right. If you're in a healthy place, where you feel good about yourself, you respect yourself, you have great boundaries, you're likely to attract someone into your life who equally respects you and is in a healthy place. If you're judgmental, you're likely to attract someone into your life who's equally judgmental of you and others. If you feel you're not good enough, you're likely to attract a person who agrees with you, right? If you're unavailable, you're likely to attract someone who's unavailable to you. So, those people who don't like commitment, or maybe say they want a relationship but they're scared of it, might attract someone in their lives that's the same. So it's kind of that, they get in close and they pull away. If you don't value yourself, you will attract people who don't value you. It could be cheaters, it could be liars, people who expect too much. If you want a relationship but your main belief is you're not worthy of one, you'll get a relationship that reinforces that view. If you believe life is all about struggle and difficult, you're likely to get a relationship or lose it, or have difficult relationships. If you want someone that's financially secure but continually think about how much you want it and don't have it, you'll likely draw to you experiences of lack and frustration. So you want to be what you want to attract. Be your list. And, if you want to be safe, do you have boundaries? Do you make people around you feel safe? So literally be your list. Instead of focusing on what other people don't have, you need to be that list. And when it comes to the expectations, you've got to have, I do struggle, I hate saying realistic expectations, but if everyone's aiming for that top 1%, you either have to be in that top 1%. Now I do see, particularly older singles, and I'm older, so I totally get it. You don't want to settle again. So, but like I said, a lot of those people are settling for the wrong things. Guys who are hung up in their careers aren't ultimately going to be spending time with you and making you happy. I find, again, so being your list, and whether you're going to attract that people, I find older singles, particularly, a lot of 50-year-olds will say, I don't feel 50. I don't feel like I fit that age. 60-year-olds will say, I don't feel 60. I don't feel I fit that age. 70-year-olds will tell me that. Everyone will say they don't particularly fit their age. And then they'll go on to say that everyone of that age, all the men of that age have got baggage. All the men of that age want to sit on the couch. And then I'll have men saying all the women of this age, they have baggage. All the women of this age, they don't have any drive, don't want to do anything, they're sitting on the couch. Both sides are making these generalizations, which quite honestly aren't true. Not every single wants to do that. And you might say you don't want to date someone your age. That's fine. But does the age range of the single you want to date, do they want to date you? And it can, what I've found from working in this area is a lot of younger guys will be with an older woman. Guys in their 30s will be with women in their 50s. Yet they don't want a relationship. They'll enjoy the benefits of it, but it's not going to go anywhere. A lot of older guys will want younger women. Some older guys can get younger women. They can. But they're usually bringing something to the table that the younger woman wants, is the fact of it. Maybe they're bringing some financial security. Maybe they're bringing some wisdom. You have to have what the person in that age range wants. You can't really be the 60-year-old unemployed man with a 5-year-old that wants a 30-year-old. It generally doesn't work. So the realistic expectations are it starts with you. If you've only got as many options as the people that want to date you. So if you've got a whole overwhelming amount of people in that age group that want to go out with you, and we're not talking one date, that they want to see you, great. But if it's not the reality and it's leaving you feeling unhappy, it's probably time to do something different. Now, again, too narrow a criteria, you're ruling out really good people. And particularly the older we get, we definitely don't look how we used to. And I do find, because I'm a coach for men and women, guys tell me things and women tell me things, and I'm very clear on the woman's point of view because I've been in that position, and I can absolutely hear where they're coming from. But guys will tell me, particularly in Perth, Western Australia, or in Australia, that there are so many good-looking singles, and back in the day, the women would just have to go out, stand there, and they would get the guy. Now, as we get older, that changes. You can't just stand there and think that your looks are going to win someone over. Men at that age are looking for something. They're looking for warmth. They're looking for kindness. They're looking for acceptance and safety. And they're not looking for instant judgment. So often people are missing each other by how they're approaching dating. Okay. And, I don't know if you listened to my last podcast where I talked to Tracy from All Things Writing, and she had some criteria, and the guy that she's in love and they're about to move in had some criteria. They absolutely could have missed each other by having that criteria in place. She had this thing that she didn't really enjoy dating English guys. She's English. She found that they could be geezers, players. So she made that generalization that all English guys can be this. She put that aside. He's quite English, but he didn't fit the generalization. But she gave him a chance and went on a few dates. And they didn't know straight away. They absolutely didn't know straight away. He had a deal breaker in his profile, not going to date anyone with cats. She came clean that she did have a cat, and it's her daughter's cat. She's not going to have it long term. But they could have missed each other based on that criteria, which I find really interesting. And how often do we do that? And I did do a Facebook Live. There was a guy, a uni student, that did a maths equation with the likelihood of how likely he was to meet a woman. And I'm going to tell it to you really quickly because it is how some people go about dating. So this guy is 26 and he wants to date someone in the UK, but he works out there's 30 million people in the UK and wants someone in London because he wants to be able to catch the train to where they are. They want to be close, save money on that. So he breaks it down to there's 4 million people in London. Okay, so of those 4 million people, he only wants to date women that are within 1 to 2 years of his age range. So from the 4 million, it brings it down to, there was only 20% in his age range, brings it down to 800,000. Now, of the 800,000, he works out that only 50% will be single. So he's down to 400,000 women. Then he decides that he wants someone that's gone to uni. So only 26% of the women in that age range have gone to uni. So it's now down to 104,000 that he could date. This is where he gets really picky on his criteria. He decides that he is only likely to be attracted to 5% of those women. So he nails that down to 5,200. Then at least he was realistic and he goes only 5% of those women were likely to date him. So he's now down to 260 women. And then he goes, okay, probably only 10% of those I'll have connection with. He's narrowed 4 million people down to 26. Now, I want to give you a little maths equation, just if he'd have changed those last three criteria. So if instead of 5% he's interested, I'm sure he could be attracted to 20% of those women. And I'm sure 20% of those women could be attracted to him. And then of those, 20% he could have a connection with. Just by changing those percentages, it's gone up to 1,000 women. So I do that simple exercise to show how people put all of these narrow criteria. Oh, and the other thing is, maybe they didn't even need to go to uni. Some people study later. Some people, are very smart and haven't gone to uni. So there's a whole pile of variables. But if you narrow your criteria so narrow, the likelihood is that no one is going to fit it. And you will be single. And there are plenty of good, quality, wonderful singles out there. Expand that criteria just by 15% and you're going to change your results. And I say a lot of these things because I've been doing this for a decade. And, I have the benefit of coaching lots of people and changing their results. And, I have worked with women that have had that criteria around, the rich guys who ended up being players and ended up cheating on them, shifted what they've wanted. They're now in the most happy, wonderful relationship that brings tears to their eyes that they couldn't imagine, but they wouldn't have got applying that other criteria because they were missing what was really important to them. The other thing that I find, because I do run events and I see firsthand what people do, is everyone goes in and they'll have guys go, I can't believe how picky women are, but then they're picky. So, everyone will go in, if everyone goes, I'm just choosing one out of 15 people, and the other person's choosing one out of 15, it's like, again, everyone's choosing those top 1%. And they're missing out on, even if you brought it down to the top 20%, top 30, 35%, you're missing out on amazing people. And in fact, you're being every bit as judgmental and narrow as they are. And we really don't know someone in 5 minutes because people are nervous. People do weird shit in that 5 minutes. And they also apply criteria like, oh my God, she said she had a cat, I'm not going to date her. Now, like my Tinder success story, people miss out on good people because some of those criteria that at the end of the day doesn't matter. Okay? So I've talked to you for long enough. I just want you to extend your criteria a little bit, because one of the biggest problems we have is being so picky on the things that quite honestly don't matter. Now, again, this advice is generalized. You can listen to a video, a podcast, and listen to generalized advice. But there's something that I love about coaching is individualized. I will work with you to what your particular issue is so you get the success you want. And it works. It really does. Anyway, my name is Debbie Rivers. I'm a relationship coach, and I hope whatever you do, it puts a smile on your face. And if you've enjoyed the video podcast, please leave a review and subscribe. It would absolutely mean the world to me. Thank you.